Hey everyone, my name's Carlos and my boyfriend and I just bought a 120-year-old home. And I'm so excited about all of the content I'm gonna get to create and share with you all, from the decorating to giving you a tour, seeing how we clean up the yard. But today I am so excited to be sharing with you all some of the insights on what it took for us to buy this 120-year-old home in Detroit. So let's get started. So to kind of take you back to the listing, when we first saw this house, we saw it listed on Zillow for $265,000. And just for reference, I would say around the neighborhood, you can expect to see houses probably just like in the immediate neighborhood. Houses that size are probably going to run you anywhere from 270 to 300, potentially more, just depending on their square footage and the shape of the house. But anyways, we saw this house on the market for $265,000, so we definitely wanted to go take a look. We also knew that with that price point and looking at some of the pictures, we had some concerns that I think explained the price. So nonetheless, we went to go see it. We were seeing so many houses at this point. My boyfriend Garth, being a realtor, made it really easy to go see houses. But we were pretty deep in our search at this point. Like, we had probably seen at least, I don't know, 15, 20 houses. You lose count after a while. So we went to go see it. We did like a lot of things about the house, but the house also had a lot of work. It had a lot of cosmetic work that needed to be done. It was an investor-owned property. And before the investor bought it, there had been a lot of wear and tear that had come just from like years and years of it being a rental property. A lot of families kind of coming in and out of the property, but then really not a lot of like good maintenance being done. The roof was a really big concern. There was like a little, I don't know, like it bows down a little. I'm probably making it seem very dramatic, but it does just curve a little bit down, like it just sags a little, and so we could see that with our naked eye. That was definitely something we wanted to look into. Anyways, we saw the house. We did love a lot of things about it, but we were like, we're not sure if we want to take on this many projects. So we continued to look in the neighborhood. We're looking really specific. If you're familiar with Detroit, this will make sense. But kind of like Jefferson, Cadillac, Mack Avenue, and we were open to going pretty far west as to get like a little closer into downtown, but we were kind of trying to stay in that like the Villages, Islandview sort of area. We continued to look at homes, and we saw some that were definitely more move-in ready, but this just like wasn't calling us. So after probably about 2 weeks, we ended up deciding to go see the property again, and this time around we decided we were going to put an offer. The price was on the market for $265,000, and when we put our initial offer, we put it down at $250,000. So we thought $265. They were pricing a little lower because of the needs, but just given the state of the roof, we decided to go down at $250. We did a little bit of negotiation back and forth, and ultimately the number that we landed at was $256,000. So at this point, our offer was accepted. We had to put $5,000 down as our earnest money, and this just means that like we're not gonna just randomly walk away from the deal. Like, obviously there's other points of negotiation, like during the inspection and during the appraisal, but this just meant that like we were serious about this offer and we were serious about buying this house. And then we went into our inspection period, and our inspection period was stressful and quick. Again, my boyfriend being the realtor, he was just like on top of it. Like, even before they had fully accepted the offer and we were done negotiating, he was already like lining up the inspection so that when we did finalize, like we already had one booked for like 2 days after, you know, we had agreed on something, or like the next day. It was all very quick. The inspection cost us $700, and they were absolutely amazing. If anybody is in the Detroit area and needs a recommendation for inspectors, let me know and I will drop their name down in the comment. But they're absolutely amazing. It was so stressful. You see a house and you kind of create this vision. You have all these dreams of what you want it to be like. And then the inspector comes and they just point out every single little thing that's wrong with the house, which is like honestly what you want. You want to know what you're getting into. But it was just like hours and hours of information, extremely overwhelming. And then you kind of have to decide, like, what do you do now? One of the big findings that we had in our inspection, the roof definitely has some structural issues. The roof itself was relatively new, but the life of the roof is probably like half of what it should have been because it didn't fix the structural issues. So I think the roof was changed about like 10 years ago, and he estimated that max it would have, like he said, around 5 years we'd have to, at least that's not terrible, we don't have to do it like tonight. But nonetheless, we hired a roofing specialist. He actually came out for free because he was also just giving us an estimate. And he estimated that we should replace the roof within 1 to 2 years. He said he could maybe live up to 5, but again, it's just depending on what our comfort level was and how quickly we wanted to get it done. And he quoted us, since it was a structural issue, they would have to like remove the roof, they'd have to fix the structural problems and then redo the roof. So it's gonna be a pretty big project, and he priced it at $20,000 to $25,000. In addition to that, I think some of the other bigger things was that there's a significant amount of tuck pointing and just like fixing of the brick around the house. It obviously hadn't really been maintained over the years, and there's just like a lot of spots where it's just like drawing moisture into the house, which leads us to our last concern, which was moisture in the basement. There were a few spots where there were some minor leakages when it rained. But what we also saw was that a lot of it was because of like the grading in the house, or like how the soil was. It was kind of like there were spots where the downspout coming from the gutter was literally like shooting water down into the corner of the foundation, and then like the soil was like going down, and so you just like create a pool right at the foundation of the house. And so the inspector kind of told us again to talk to a specialist, which we did, but that probably just fixing the grading and fixing the downspouts would help significantly. A lot of information. It's just so stressful, and you're like, oh my god, what in the world am I getting myself into? In the end, what we ended up deciding was we thought the house was still worth, like if we were to put in an additional $30,000, we thought the house was like still worth the price point. So we ended up deciding to go forward, but we did renegotiate it, and what we asked for was 3% in concessions, which just means that the seller of the house would give us 3% of the sale price towards our closing costs. So they like try to negotiate with us, and we were like, there's so much work to be done in this house. Like if you're not willing to meet us here, we're not even nitpicking you. We're being so understanding. Like just sell us the damn house, otherwise we're gonna just walk away. Additionally, my boyfriend was a realtor on this deal, and so he did get a 3% commission, which is nice because we were getting like the $7,500 from the concessions that he was providing, but then also $7,500 from Garth getting paid out. So kind of with that, we thought that it was still a pretty fair deal, and we decided to move forward with the property. So now we arrived at our appraisal. Our appraisal was next step, and luckily this went pretty well. So we bought the house for $256. It appraised at $280. Which was fine. I think we were pretty happy with that number. We recognized we had to put money into it, which is why we really did want to hire appraisal. The appraisal was done, that was nice and smooth. We were now ready to close, and that was the exciting day. We were gonna get keys, but this is where a lot of the money and the cash up front comes out. Our total closing cost came out to be a little under $12,000. This is not with the down payment. So our down payment was separate from this, which is why I'm so glad we had the sellers kind of cover the down payment with the concessions. $12,000 in closing costs, $4,000 of that was just us prepaying for our home insurance for a full year. Well, it was the home insurance and some interest for moving in early. $1,000 of it was taxes that had already been paid in advance. by the seller that now we were going to pay him back for it. The other $7,000 were other general closing costs, and closing costs are so expensive. Like, I don't think I'd realize how expensive it is to buy a house. I also didn't realize how expensive it is to sell a house, because I was looking at the seller's numbers on our closing sheet, and we sold it for $256,000. Let's call it $7,000 in concession. So the seller paid us $7,000, so it was really $249,000 is what he sold it for, and then he got paid $232,000. So he also paid like $17,000, and I guess $7,000 of that was to Garth. So nonetheless, very expensive. Now, I haven't been in my full savings era, and so I didn't have this much cash just lying around. But we did really want to buy a house, and the route we decided to take is to borrow from my 401k. I've been contributing to my 401k for the last 8 years, and it had a pretty penny in there. So we're able to withdraw or take a loan of $15,000. And it's a pretty long loan, and I want to say the payments come out to like $150 per paycheck, so like $300 a month. So that kind of wraps up all of our $12,000 in closing costs. Now I'm going to tell you what the monthly payments are, and I'll let you decide if you think this is worth it, if we are insane, if we made the wrong choice. But in the end, it really doesn't matter because we own it. We're gonna live there now, and then we're gonna decide what to do with it in a couple of years. Right now, our payment is, and this will go up, so I want to warn you on that, is $2,100 a month, and I'll kind of break it down for you. $1,600 is our principal and interest, so that's like our actual loan. $100 of it is our mortgage insurance. Since we only put 3% down, the bank needs to take out a mortgage on our loan. And then $400 for taxes and home insurance. Since we put less than 3% down, taxes and home insurance are like escrowed into our loan, and we have to pay it as part of our mortgage. Now, like I said, I do expect this to go up, and the portion I expect to go up is the taxes and insurance. I expect that our house is going to get reappraised by the city, and they're going to say like, now your house is worth more because obviously we just bought it, and we bought it for a higher value than the previous owner owned it for. And then also our home insurance is going to go up because in this initial quote, I think it was a little lower than what we finally ended up going with. So I expect our monthly payment to go up by about $400 to $500 and land somewhere between $2,600 and $2,700 a month for a $256,000 home. And maybe you're like me, you're like, oh my God, it's such a high payment for like, in my mind, is not like the most expensive home. So hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully it uncovers a little bit of kind of what I feel like is the mirage of financial payments. And I cannot wait to share with you all a house tour, some plans of what we want to do, and then share with you all some of the remodeling that we do. So thanks again. Make sure to like and follow if you want to tag along on this journey, and thank you all for joining.